You are who you are. It sounds so simple, but it's one of the hardest truths to actually live out. Because let's be real, we all have chapters in our story we'd rather rip out. Past decisions, failed relationships, mistakes that still make us cringe, or even things that happened to us that we had zero control over. Abuse, heartbreak, shame, all of it gets woven into who we are. And even getting this episode out to you today has been one of those chapters. I was stuck at the airport, my 3 p.m. flight delayed again and again, when I decided to just give tomorrow's episode a pre listen. And let's just say it was not okay. The edits weren't right, and I knew if I waited until I got to my hotel that night, I would either stay up really late re recording or stress about it, or the launch of it would be delayed. So I had no choice. And there I was, scrambling, trying to find a quiet spot in the middle of an airport, realizing my only option was to spend $79 to get into the American Airlines lounge because the Centurion Lounge was an entire terminal away. All that just to re record this episode. But you know what? That's an investment in me, in this podcast, and in you. And hey, the lucky people sitting around me in this lounge just got a live preview of Fit Fuel Female episode 19. Who knows? Maybe that's how this podcast finally goes viral. And honestly, it ties right into what sparked this whole episode. A much needed girls' day. We were sitting around the table, cocktails in hand, and like we always do, diving straight into life. The now, the then, the good, the messy. If you've ever been on a girls' day, you know exactly how this goes. We weren't even halfway through our first round before the real talk started flowing. At one point, the conversation got so funny that one of my friends nearly choked on her lunch. It was that kind of energy, the kind where the stories are rolling, people are crying, laughing, and it feels so good to just be in that space together. But what struck me was how freely we shared. We weren't ashamed. We laughed, we cringed a little, but it was all out there like it could have been printed on the front page of a newspaper. And then one story came up, a story that one of my friends shared about a friend of hers, about a woman who still feels like she can't talk about her past, even with her husband. That just made me sad. Because if you can't sit across from the person you share your life with and be fully you, then who does get the real version of you? And honestly, it made me wonder how many people are out there carrying that same kind of shame. Quick shout out to my girl who actually gave me the idea for this episode, by the way. Love you. But that's what I adore about these conversations. They remind me of the power in just owning every chapter of who you are. And it brought me back to when Reese and I first started dating. I remember sitting across from him and just blurting it all out. Every messy chapter, the divorce, the mistakes, the chapters that weren't exactly my finest moments. And yes, even a short season where I was doing a little more jet setting than soul searching. But I didn't want to carry any secrets into this relationship. I wanted a clean slate. I wanted to be known fully. And in a way, I think I was asking for forgiveness, not just from him, but from myself. That conversation with Reese taught me something I'll never forget. When you bring your whole self into the light, past, present, and all, you strip shame of its power and you stop living an edited life. And that's where I want to kick off today with the first lesson. Lesson number 1, stop living edited. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that if we hide the parts of our story we don't like, people will love us more. But there's another lie too, that if we do share, people won't love us at all. And both of those lies, they'll keep you living really small. Think about it. Every time you edit yourself, every time you leave out a detail or dodge a question or try to rewrite your own history, you're teaching yourself that your real self isn't worthy of being seen. And the more you do that, the heavier it gets. And listen, I wasn't always the Kristen sitting here today saying I am who I am. There was a season in my life when I bent over backwards to make sure everyone liked me. I said yes when I wanted to say no. I filled my life and honestly my cup with things and people that weren't right for me, just so I could hold on to their approval. And let me tell you, it left me drained, lost, and even further away from myself. I've seen this play out in so many areas of life. Take careers, for example. I've been in sales leadership for a long time, and let me tell you, people can spot an edited version of someone a mile away. When you show up to an interview trying to be the candidate you think they want, it never lands the same as just being who you are. The people who hire you for your edited self, they'll eventually find out the real you anyway. So why not start with the truth? Or take fitness. No one wants to be that person who walks into the gym, piles on the heavy weights just to look impressive, or ends up burned out or sidelined because they were lifting for ego and not for progress. And I'll admit, I've been there before. That was the old Kristen, the one who cared more about what people thought than what my body actually needed. Now, I know better. I lived what's right for me, not what's going to turn heads, and I'm stronger because of it. And then there's meeting new people. Reese always jokes because I literally say the phrase, I am who I am, when I meet someone new. And it's true. What you see with me is basically what you get. I'm not fake, I don't sugarcoat. But let me be clear, this doesn't mean you don't evolve. Sometimes we do have to look within ourselves and change. Maybe it's softening a rough edge, rethinking a perspective, or learning how to treat someone differently. Growth is necessary, but the foundation of who you are, that shouldn't be edited. And honestly, as I've grown in my faith, this has hit me even harder. Because if I believe I was created on purpose with purpose, then why would I waste time trying to rewrite who God already designed me to be? My flaws, my strengths, my quirks, even the messy parts, they're not accidents. They're part of the story He's writing through me. And I'd rather show up fully as that version than live half hidden trying to please everyone else. The truth is, freedom comes from bringing it all into the light. Past, present, good, bad. Because once you own it, no one else can use it against you. Once you say it out loud, it stops having power over you. And listen, this doesn't mean you have to air your dirty laundry all over the place. It means you stop living a life that's edited for other people's comfort. It means you stop hiding parts of yourself out of fear. Because edited you isn't the real you, and people can see that. So the action here, stop editing one part of your life this week. Maybe it's being honest in that interview about what you really bring to the table. Maybe it's walking into the gym and lifting the weight that matches your body, not the person next to you. Maybe it's introducing yourself to someone new without the filter, without the performance, just you. Start small, but start somewhere. Which leads me to lesson number 2. Your past is proof of growth. The second thing I've learned is this: your past is your proof. It's the evidence of how far you've come. For so long, I wanted to keep certain parts of my story locked away. The choices I wasn't proud of, the relationships that went nowhere, the mistakes that made me feel so small. And I used to think those chapters disqualified me as a person. But the truth is, they're the very things that have shaped me. They're the receipts of my growth. When I look back at old Kristen, I see a girl who cared so much about pleasing everyone, about being liked, that she said yes to everyone and everything, even when it drained her. I see someone who thought strength was proving herself in the gym instead of listening to her body. I see someone who thought attention equaled worth, and I see someone who made decisions out of a lot of fear. And here's the raw truth. I don't regret those decisions, but if I hadn't been so afraid of myself, so convinced that my past defined me, I wouldn't have walked down the aisle the first time. I wouldn't have passed up on things that could have made me happy because I thought I didn't deserve them. I honestly believe my past only afforded me a certain future. But now, I don't see shame anymore. I see progress. I see the proof that I'm not her anymore. And the impact of that shows up every single day in so many ways, especially in how I parent. Just the other day, my son looked at me and said, "Mommy, I think I'm weird." My first instinct was to tell him, "No, you're not," but I stopped myself. And instead I said, "Sweetheart, everyone's a little weird, but you're you, and we love you for all that you are. Even Mommy's a little weird in her own way. And who you are, that's exactly the boy we love and are so proud of. And by the way, everyone else loves you too." That right there is proof of growth. Because the old Kristen might have responded differently. She might have wanted to polish it up, to protect it, to edit it. But the me today, I want my kids to grow up knowing they never have to edit themselves to be loved. I want them to know their worth isn't tied to perfection or performance. And the only way I can teach them that is by living it myself. By owning every messy chapter and letting them see a mom who's still growing too. Because here's the thing. If you erase your past, you erase the evidence that you've grown. You rob yourself of the reminder that you've survived, you've changed, you've evolved. The fact that you can look back and say, "Wow, I don't even recognize that version of me," that's proof, that's power. And if faith has taught me anything, it's that God doesn't waste a single chapter, even the ones I'd rather cross out. They all get woven into the story. Sometimes those messy pages are actually the ones He uses the most. So your action here, instead of cringing at your past, thank it. Pick one chapter. Maybe it's a relationship, a decision, a version of yourself you've completely outgrown. And write down what it taught you. What strength did it give you? What lesson did it leave you with? Because once you see it as proof, it stops being your prison. And I know some of you listening might be wondering, "Kristen, how can you share all of this so openly?" Here's the truth. I haven't always been this way. For a long time, I carried shame about my story, and I was terrified of judgment. If you listened to my last episode, you heard Reese and I talk about my first marriage and how we met. But I want to be clear. It wasn't just because I started finally finding joy outside of it all. That joy was more of a catalyst, a wake-up call to finally get myself off the bathroom floor where I had spent months crying and feeling completely broken. The truth is, I had spent years grieving and fighting for that relationship, even before we got married. So if anything, my mistake wasn't that I walked away. My mistake was walking down the aisle in the first place when I already knew in my gut it wasn't right. But here's what I've come to believe. Just because you take a vow doesn't mean you're required to stay in toxicity, stress, or pain that is slowly destroying you. Walking away wasn't about quitting. It was about choosing my mental health, my well-being, my life, and myself. And yes, not everyone is comfortable with that. I get it. Not everyone agrees with it. I've asked for forgiveness for my mistakes, and I've owned the parts of the story that weren't pretty. But I will never apologize for choosing to stop editing myself out of my own life. So if someone wants to judge me for that, that's okay. But I won't stop being open about it, because my freedom, and hopefully your freedom too, comes from putting it all out there, unedited and unapologetic. Well, this leads me to our power move for the week. So here it is. I want you to live one unedited moment. That might mean saying the thing you'd normally hold back, wearing the outfit that feels the most you, laughing too loud, dancing in the kitchen to Life of a Showgirl, owning a story without softening it. But more than that, embrace who you are. Every quirk, every so-called flaw, every piece of your personality that makes you you. Because let's be honest, we're all a little weird. And what's normal anyway? That's not something to hide. It's something to actually celebrate. The world doesn't need another copy-paste version of someone else. It needs your realness. It needs your voice, your presence, your truth, and it needs you. So this week, stop editing, stop apologizing, and just step into it. Be the unfiltered version of yourself, because that's where your power is. So let's talk about what's been fueling me this week. Honestly, my friends. That girls' day was much more than just cocktails and laughter. It was life-giving. It reminded me how much I need those women in my life. The ones who know my past, love me in my present, and cheer me for my future. And here's the thing about true friends. They can only embrace you fully when you embrace yourself. A solid, authentic core you. No edits, no filters. Is what draws the right people in and filters the wrong ones out. Because anyone who doesn't accept all of you, really, shouldn't be given any of you. And these girls, they may not have known me my whole life, but they know my all. That's the kind of friendship that fuels me. The kind that sees every chapter, every flaw, every strength, and loves me anyway. That day reminded me that strong women fuel strong women, and I couldn't do this without mine. So that's what I've got for you today. And I cannot wait for next week, because I've got a very special guest joining me. She was introduced to me through the Fit Fueled Female experience, and within seconds of talking to her, I knew she was going to light up this community with her wisdom. Trust me, you will not want to miss this one. And before we wrap, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for spending time with me every week. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. I would like to ask, if you are enjoying this podcast, please like, please review, and please share it with someone you think that will find the message as relevant as you do. Thank you so much. You all mean the world to me. So stay fit, stay fueled, and I can't wait to see you next time.